I work at a restaurant as a busser. Today I watched my manager kick out a large group of people waiting for a table because one of them called me a thing. I am an FTM transgender. I have never felt so grateful for someone sticking up for me. Reddit. Tell me some of your most grateful moments. My mother died 10 years ago. I had dropped out of school to help my dad run his business, assure my younger sisters had food on the table, and my mother have care during her battle with cancer. She died in February of 2002. My father began to consider winding down his business quickly. What was home for me? I knew I had to finish my education, so I applied to Illinois State University and several other institutions. All said no. Illinois State said I missed the deadline for applying. I called the school, and I got a secretary for the psychology department. I hadn't noticed any deadline. She told me when the deadline was. All the bitter for me because it was 2 days after my mother had been buried. I had been in shock, but that was what broke the proverbial camel's back, and I broke down on the phone. She said, hold on, let me check something. She dug out my file from somewhere. Your grades check out. Good. Let me just. Okay. We'll see you in the fall. Keep this between us. I kept that promise for 10 years, where now it is a cornerstone in how I deal with employees and peers and my country. I graduated from a school I shouldn't have been accepted into by their rules, by the mercy of a woman I never met. You should find her and tell her. Seriously, people like her should be recognized and know that what they do change people's lives. Mum suffered a huge stroke earlier this year in New Zealand. I live in Australia. Got on a plane ASAP the next day to get there, but before I did I had no idea how to get from Wellington NZ to the small town hospital she was at a few hours outside of Wellington. And to make matters worse, my plane didn't get until midnight, so any chance of public transport was pretty slim. Asked Air New Zealand if anyone knew of a way for me to get there. Got 5 PMs offering me a lift, no strings attached. Took the first one up on his offer. Got to the hospital in less than 2 hours after my flight landed. Easily my most grateful moment of my entire life. New Zealand. Australia's Canada. When I was younger, probably at least 15 years ago, my dad stood up for a waitress. It was my birthday and I got choice of where to eat that night. So I picked the local pizza parlor. I believe it was called the Pizza Factory. There was a really rude table of young teens sitting near the window who were relentlessly harassing the waitress, and things got progressively worse. Originally they were just being loud and obnoxious, a little too loud, swearing and generally just being highly frustrating to everyone in the restaurant. The waitress badgering continued for a while and they started lighting stuff on fire under the table. I could tell this was starting to pee off my dad. I can tell as he starts to get the look of murder in his eyes and the spot above his mustache starts to twitch. The last straw was when one of the guys at the table accidentally on purpose tripped the girl as she was carrying a tray of drinks. She started bawling and just sat crumpled on the floor. He got up immediately and went over to the table and started yelling at the top of his lungs at them when one of them said, "Hey dude, you need to chill out, man." He grabbed the guy by the neck and pinned him to the wall and told them if they didn't leave immediately he was going to chill him out through the freaking window. They hightailed it out without paying the tab. There was literally a standing ovation and I've never seen somebody so happy as that waitress. And my dad picked up the tab for that table too. Told them if they didn't leave immediately he was going to chill him out through the freaking window. This sentence alone makes your dad the coolest freaking dude in the world. He may also be Bryan Cranston. Look into that. I commuted to college. Most of the buildings with classrooms were on the top of a hill, and the commuter lot was at the bottom of the hill. Nobody wanted to have to walk back to their car once they were on campus, but walking up that long, steep road while carrying all of your books and materials for the whole day was not fun. It was especially sucky when the weather was bad. One early winter day during my first or second year, rain was falling down in sheets and coating the parking lot and hill in ice. As I got out of my car, A really cute guy pulled up beside me and asked if I wanted a ride up the hill. He explained that his professor had cancelled class due to the weather, so he was using the unexpected free time to drive other commuters up the hill to their classes. I got dropped off at my building at the top of the hill, and I watched him head back toward the parking lot to pick up more commuters. The best part is that word spread among the commuters about the upperclassman superhero who was providing rides up the horrible icy hill, and our student government rep was able to get funding to set up a winter shuttle service using the college vans. Once, they even got the cafeteria to donate some hot chocolate. I graduated half a decade ago, but the shuttle is still in service every winter, and it's all because that one guy decided to give rides that day. Half a decade ago makes 5 years sound like ages. My mom raised me by herself, and my dad was too much of a deadbeat to pay child support because he was with another family. My mom had to work at a 7-Eleven in a dangerous part of the city since it was the only job she could get. At the time, she would work 6-7 times a week and work double shifts 2-3 times a week, just to make ends meet. And by making ends meet, I mean barely making ends meet. Sometimes she wouldn't eat just so I could eat, and she would tell me that she ate at work or something, so I wouldn't feel bad. She would wear her clothes until they were almost falling apart, just so I could get new clothes. There are way too many things that my mom did that I am grateful for. I would get dehydrated for all the crying if I tried listing them all. Man, this is the most touching thing I've read. Your mom is wonderful. Mine would probably be my adoption. I lost my mother at a young age, and my father sort of disappeared when crazy became crazy, so I lived with my ultra-Catholic, abusive grandparents. They really did a number on me, to put it in TLDR form, and it kind of made me really depressed. So, I was doing some renovations for my then girlfriend's aunt, and she saw the scars on my back where I had been hit with a rake, and where I got whipped with a phone cord. So she took me in, without a second though, and gave me a home and a family. I gained 60 pounds in the first 3 months I was there, from actually having food available, and all around. It's a great place. I never knew what it was like to feel loved before, and my adopted mother thinks of me as one of her own. She once watched over me for a week, taking it off work, because I was on suicide watch and hospitals give me anxiety attacks. It all makes me feel incredibly, unspeakably grateful. I have a family, and a job I've wanted since I was 8, line cook, and a home. And it's all because of one woman, my adopted mother, who showed me so much more kindness than I could ever have believed even existed. Thank you, mummy. Over this past summer, my 9-year-old daughter was getting like 10 calls a day from a particular little male friend of hers. After the first day, I said, "Does this boy like you as more than a friend?" Her reply, "No mama, he's lonely." The kids at school made fun of him every day because his skin is really dark, and they tell him he looks funny. I told him I'd be his friend. He calls me, because he doesn't have any other friends to go outside and play with. I was grateful knowing that even though I'm not a perfect parent, this I got right. She won't be a bully. She will befriend those who are bullied, and she won't judge someone because of their skin color. Cry. I hope my kids are half as awesome as your daughter. I was a bedwetter as a kid and I used pull-up type pants until the 1st grade. Little 6-year-old me had a friend over and we were playing hide and seek with my younger sister, which ended up with us hiding in my closet, the place where my sleep undies were. I was mortified when my friend found them. She asked very loudly and rudely, "Are those yours? Only babies wear them." My little sister, watching me freeze with embarrassment, said, "Those are mine." She took the blame and let the friend make fun of her without ever telling that they were really mine. My sister is awesome. My sister would have been like, "He shoots his pants too." I work as a waitress and I once had a table that was treating me like crap. It was a slow night, and I only had one other table. As a waitress, it's my job to be nice and courteous to guests. One gentleman at table A is for butthole, kept snapping his fingers at me when he wanted something instead of being patient, as I'm a very attentive waitress. After about 40 minutes of this, me getting exponentially more flustered, a woman from table B turns around and says, "Snap your fingers one more time and I'll make sure you can't snap them again." She's a waitress, not a freaking dog, or something along those lines. It was a while ago. I've never been more grateful. The people that stick up for servers and retail workers make crappy jobs worth working. Good for her. I'm not the strongest guy. In freshman phys ed, a couple of jocks would give me trouble every once in a while. Nothing too serious, just ashlery. One day, this senior who lifted about 3x what I did and had a six-pack comes over and tells me to let him know if they keep giving me trouble, so he can take care of it. Guy ends up helping me work out for most of the year. Your very own Mr. Miyagi. When I was stuck in a wheelchair while going through physical therapy, I got called a fat cripple whose only disability was being fat. I was around 10 and it hurt so bad. One day someone said something along those lines and some random person came up and said at least he has a reason to be slightly overweight since he's in a wheelchair. You're just a fat frick without a reasonable excuse, aren't you? I nearly cried. When I was 9 years old, I was at an anniversary party for my great aunt and great uncle. I really wanted to dance with someone, but nobody else really wanted to dance. I was so sad that I had nobody to dance with and I sat really sad in the corner. My third cousin, who was 19 at the time, came up to me and asked me to dance with him, then spent most of the night dancing on his knee so we could be the same height. Last month he passed away from cystic fibrosis, and this is still my favorite memory of him. Just dancing with me when nobody else would made a huge impact on my life, and I'm still so grateful to him. It's always those little gestures that mean the most. Your cousin seems like a good person. May he rest in peace. When I was in grade 9, around 2006 to 2007, I was pretty much the only Muslim guy at a Christian high school and the good old terrorist slurs were still popular back then. One day, I was walking to my next class with my friends and some grade 10 student kid came up to me and shouted terrorist in the building. Everyone back off, he's gonna blow US up. Living in Canada, I did not expect to hear that at all. So when I heard that for the first time in high school, I was mortified and scared that I was going to be labeled as that for my whole entire 4 years of high school. As he said that, a group of seniors walked right by that whole situation, pinned the kid to the locker, cussed him out in front of roughly 50 students and said, if we ever see you as much as look at this guy, we will freaking kill you. Everyone was so shocked and started clapping, and I got a few people coming up to me asking if I was alright. The guy walked away with fear, and they came up to me and said, hey man, sorry that happened to you. If you need anything or if that kid bothers you again, let us know. I was so extremely happy that someone stood up for me and could not have thanked them enough. Freaking Canada, I want to live there. For me, it's grateful for my mom. I'm also FTM and my mom was the only ally I had in my life. My grandparents were against it, my aunts and uncles and my dad were against it, all due to ignorance. Probably about 2 or 3 months before she died, she called everyone except for my father. He wanted nothing to do with her. No idea why, and explained all of it. Just laid it out on the table and told people what I was going through and that I am not her daughter. I am her son. I am their nephew, their grandson, etc. The girl they thought they knew does not exist. I had no idea what she did for me until pretty much my entire family came up to me during the funeral and told me the conversations they've all had with my mom, and they hugged me and told me I looked handsome and they will call me by my name and not my birth name. If it weren't for her, I think I would be really depressed and have nothing to do with my family. When I was really little and had just learned the whole men pee standing up idea, I got the genius idea to try sitting on the toilet backwards. The one time I didn't lock the door to the bathroom, my sister barges in. She sees me, starts cracking up, and yells at her MOOOM Lina EPs backwards, at which point my mom steps in and casually adds, hey, maybe she wanted to try something different. No hint of laughter, nothing. She totally stuck up for my toilet adventures. TLDR, I pulled a Butters and my mom stuck up for me. First week of high school, was late to all my classes, got picked on, and then to top it all off I broke my violin bow and I thought I was going to have to drop orchestra. My orchestra teacher used part of his budget to buy me a fairly decent bow. I was never so happy in my life. I hope you repaid him by playing the frick out of your violin. Similar story, working a hotel front desk with someone who was pretty obviously gay, not necessarily flamboyant but sometimes you can just tell. A guest called him a F. Before either of us could react, Our boss comes running in from the back office, asks what room they're in, and evicts them on the spot without refund. Frick yeah. My dad used to be super religious, openly against gay rights, abortions, and pretty much agreed with anything the church said. That is, until I told him I wasn't straight. Instead of freaking out and disowning me like I thought he would, he just hugged me. I'm so grateful my dad's love and acceptance. OP. Thanks for sharing your story. While I am sure you said a verbal thank you to your manager, may I make the gentle suggestion to make him/her a simple card, using your words, not Hallmark. If you don't own a printer, write it on paper and fold it in half. My point is, a tangible item manager can hold in their hand and put in their desk to keep. When I owned a business and an employee of mine did something like that, well, 15 years later, I still have that thank you card she made me. When I used to work at the automotive center in a big retail chain store, I was left to work alone almost all the time. One day, I was slaving away, multitasking to the max, and this woman in line started talking crap about me within earshot, saying why can't she go faster, lazy, insulting me, etc. By multitasking, I mean on the phone, quoting tires on the computer to the person on the phone, cutting keys, and running 2 registers, so I'm taking care of at least 4 people at once. It's something I pride myself on, as opposed to the other people there who will make you wait because their little brain can only handle one thing at a time. Since I couldn't do anything about her, I just kept going full speed in order to get her out of there as soon as possible. There was this guy in a wheelchair in line behind her, someone I'd only seen a few times, that told her to, and I quote, shut the frick up. There wasn't a person in the area whose eyes didn't widen. Mine included. Everyone is just frozen, looking back and forth from this cow to the guy in the wheelchair. Then the crap hits the fan. She starts screaming at the guy in the wheelchair. God made you crippled because you're a crappy person. Dude is smooth as silk and replies, at least he didn't give me your handicap. You're ugly and stupid as heck, and I'll take you outside to prove to you just how capable I am. You be all our jaws are on the floor. She left, still screaming, and the dude is just sitting there like nothing happened. The people in line actually did a small round of golf clap for the guy. He wheels up to me and says, well, dang, you were doing the best you could. Someone had to say it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. TL. DR. Guy in a wheelchair threatens to take a rude woman out to the parking lot for being a B to me at work. Accidentally deleted my post, sorry. Anyways, I will explain again, but in a TL. DR. format. I was middle school and was getting threatened by some bullies telling me that dad would beat me up. A few larger upper class men overheard and told me nothing would happen, and if it did they had my back. I was never bullied by them again. I got the Jew thing a lot in year 7, almost leading to several fights. Luckily my sister had gone to the same school a few years earlier, and a year 12 kid she was friends with made a point to walk up to me randomly while talking to other kids and ask me if anyone was giving me any trouble. It worked. A few months ago I came out to my parents and they did not take it that well. I kid you not. The very first thing out of my mom's mouth was, what am I supposed to tell my friends? Followed by, don't tell anyone. I left the room after she started asking if Viagra would help fix the problems I was having with an ex-girlfriend. Scariest part is that she isn't even religious, just that worried about what others think of her. My dad was a little better, but didn't really say anything about how my mom reacted, and wasn't that encouraging. He pretty much said that I ruined his dreams of me having my own family and kids etc. After I told my younger sister what my mom said, she is only 15. She straight up went to my mom and called her a B and asked how she could be so shallow to her own son. While we both agree that she is a pretty awful person, just seeing someone stand up for me after all those years trying to live my life for them really meant a lot to me. It was one of the first times I really felt that the love shown by someone in my family was not just due to bloodline obligation. Nicole, you are awesome. When I was 10 I switched from a public Spanish school to an international English school. Even though I'm originally French, I spoke absolutely no English, and as is expected from 10-year-old kids, I was extremely ostracized and bullied. I've always been the biggest kid in the class, but I hate to fight, and back then I just took it because I wasn't the fighting type. I always ended up going home and crying for a good half hour, but I never told my parents because they went through great trouble to put me through the best possible education. Halfway through that year, a new Dutch kid came to school. He had been kicked out of another school for being a trouble kid. He was the silent type to never speak to anyone. One day on the playground outside the bathroom, I mispronounced a word and everyone thought it was the funniest thing. They started teasing me and pushing me around. I was obviously distraught. Without saying a word, this new kid came up to one of the kids and knocked him out cold. He looked at the others and told them to stop picking on me for my accent. The teacher came 5 minutes later, furious at the kid. I'm guessing he was already on thin ice. When the teacher asked what happened, I told her it was me. And being one of the nice kids of the class, I merely got a warning and nothing more. He thanked me for taking the blame and explained that his parents were going through a divorce, and if he had been expelled from this school, his mum would have had no other choice but to send him back to live in Holland with his grandparents. From that day on, we've been watching each other's back and have been best friends ever since. Gotta say, your English writing skills are impressive. Fairly similar situation. I was serving a group of young guys at a restaurant, and when I walked off I heard them laughing. My roommate, who worked with me, came to me in the kitchen and said they had asked for her to be their new server because they hated F. My manager overheard the conversation and asked them to leave and never return. That same manager promoted me to bartender, but said I'd have to tone down the gay for the bar customers. Still a pretty nice guy though. I took a former GF out for lunch at this nice French restaurant a couple months back. We were just going to grab a coffee and something small, but I end up eating a full lunch and she has a nosh with a couple mimosas. We were seated in the back patio, and since it was during the week there was only one guy sitting there alone. Reading. Didn't pay him any mind. At some point he overhears us talking and says something which leads to an hour-and-a-half long conversation with this guy. Ends up he's a gay hairstylist, actor, reverend, and has some crazy stories to tell. When we're wrapping up convo he says he has to go, but it was nice meeting us, and gives my GF his number. He leaves. She runs to the bathroom before we head out. I flag down the waiter and ask for our bill in the meantime. The waiter says he doesn't know what I'm talking about. Since he's French and didn't speak English that well, I just repeat myself, but he says, no, it's already taken care of. Turns out Rev. Stylist guy paid our bill for us for absolutely no reason but just to be an awesome dude. Restored my faith in humanity, and the waiter got a great tip. No one has ever stood up to me like that, but the time when I felt most grateful was at my father's funeral. He passed away when he was 40 due to heart problems, and I was only 16. A group of friends from my hometown, their parents, my best friend who lived states away, and a friend who was in college all came to be with me and support me at a time when they knew I needed it most. Them being there was the nicest thing anyone has ever done for me, and I will always be grateful to them for teaching me that I am loved and cared about. My grandpa died in January and my best friend showed up unexpectedly and it made my day. My so and I have been having a rough year. Cancelled our wedding. Lost a lot of money in the process. Both lost our jobs. I just found out I'm horribly allergic to my cats. This month we finally ran out of savings. Luckily we both just got jobs again, but are still trying to catch up. 2 days ago my so's dad dropped by and took us grocery shopping and bought me allergy medication. As if that wasn't enough, he buys a side of beef every year and keeps it in his deep freeze. And today he came by with a buttload of meat and gave us enough money to pay rent for 2 months. I grew up the only child of a single teen mom on welfare. The amount of generosity and acceptance I've experienced from my so's family is unbelievable to me. This is also the first time in my life I've known what it feels like to have a dad. To say that I'm grateful would be an understatement. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.